Baldy's looking lovely. Look at him. It's dialed up.
What's up, guys?
Look at man. Looking svelte.
Is that Don Johnson?
Well, I mean, I don't know what's that, but I mean, it's a busy Wednesday, man. Sometimes you gotta do some things you don't really want to do. This will all fall apart in a couple of minutes here. So, anyways, it's TV Wednesday, so we got to do some stuff.
Well, this show's been falling apart for the last 15 minutes. So
disagree.
Welcome to the meltdown.
All right.
I wanted to start on the defensive side of the ball with you. I saw you had a pretty awesome breakdown on Jack Sanborn, which I encourage people to go check out. We've talked about Sanborn before. My question to you is, like, sort of philosophically, you got a guy who we like to say on this show that every time that guy's on the field, something good happens. Yet he's only on the field for 8 snaps. And I get it, because he's your Sam backer. Everybody's in nickel now. It's I don't necessarily know what the solution is, but how do you attack that in today's day of football, where you got a guy like that who's seemingly has just good things follow him because he's got a nose for the football, and yet he's not on the field a lot?
I know, but I mean, he's out there on goal line defense, short yardage, 3 tight ends. That's his role right now. I mean, if something happens to Edmonds or Edwards, he's on the field. So he's a depth player in their nickel look. He's their third linebacker, in their goal line short yardage looks. Indianapolis plays a lot of 3 tight ends. It gets them on the field. But that's it right now. But it's a shame because, what are you? I don't think you're going to take Edmonds or Edwards off, but that's kind of what it requires in order to do it. Just because the matchups, teams are in 3 wide receiver personnel. I mean, somebody's got to cover one of those guys, and presumably you'd rather have Kyler Gordon cover him, than to have the Sandman cover him. So I think that's just the dilemma when we're talking about a player like that.
Baldy, what's your thoughts on what you saw from Caleb specifically last week? Would you call a major step forward? Like some people are saying, a little bit of empty yards, which I think is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, the dude threw for 363. Let's give him some credit. But at the same time, obviously there's room for improvement.
There is. I mean, look, you're asking him to drop back almost 60 times last week in a game that really didn't get out of hand. They can't run the ball. And so their better option is just put it in Caleb's hands right now. He let a couple get away. I mean, Jones got a few on him. One was, I think, a poor throw. But, the protection's breaking down. He's like, I don't understand the offense. I don't pretend to understand it. I don't think the routes marry what he's looking to do. Like, it's just confusing to me. So he's in the middle of it. I mean, we've seen offenses in this league up in Green Bay. The offense fits the quarterback. I'm not sure what they're trying to do because the routes are far too deep. I don't care if it's 3rd and 8. Like, somebody's got to be it. We've talked about this before. But I thought for what they're asking him to do behind an offense line that's not playing real well, I thought he did the best he could do. And it's an improvement. He got touchdowns. He got the ball to Odunze. You saw some play action, deep shots. It's about time they took some. That's encouraging, I think.
Yeah, well, you had 92 total plays. I think it was 63 dropbacks, and then I think it was 52 total passes. Yeah. So clearly the run game needs to get in the action and help support this quarterback. Quarterback certainly has responsibility to the run game as well, but Roschon Johnson came into the fold and made some plays. How much would you be considering? You pay all this money to DeAndre Swift, but how much would you be considering starting to give Roschon Johnson some more looks?
I'm giving it to the guy who gets hot. I don't care what his name is. Honestly, I'm giving it to whatever guy looks like he's popping a few runs. He's got a good, because every running back, I don't care if we go back to, to Sweetness or, I don't really care. There's always a dance between the running back and the line, and backs see things different with the line. The line sees things different with different backs. And so whoever's seen it better, like, that's who I would go to. Like, Khalil Herbert doesn't look like he's a part of this right now, but I like Khalil. I liked him in the past, but he's not really a part of this. But I'm giving it, I don't care how much money they paid to anybody or the name on the back of the jersey. Give me a guy who looks like he's getting hot and he's gaining some yards. And so to me, that's that's how it's got to start. But they got to get better up front. I mean, I showed you the goal line thing where everybody's on the ground. I mean, that goal line stand, like you got to be able to get a yard. I don't care what you do. You got to get a yard in this business. If you got to go tush push, whatever you got to do, you can't come away from that part of the field with no points.
What would you call if you were the Bears right now with that offensive line, though? 4th and goal at the 1. What are you doing?
Well, I mean, the way that they blocked, I would throw. I would play action. I'd move Caleb. I'd run sprint right option. I mean, there's a million different routes. Bootleg, keepers. I mean, I would probably put it in Caleb's hands and take my chances right now because, look, I'm friends with Matt Pryor. I know Matt. He got his chance to play. I don't know how many right guards they've gone through already. They weren't good at that position. Weren't good at center. Wright struggling at right. I mean, they're just struggling up front right now across the board, play to play.
I don't know, Baldy. It's 4th and goal at the 1. Putting your running back at the 9. I mean, maybe we should move them even farther back. Maybe we'll just put the running back at the 15. Can we run a formation out of that? I mean, let's get them as far away from the end zone as possible.
Well, is Matsui available? Can I get a fullback? Can I get somebody that's going to be a lead blocker here? Can I get the Fridge? Is he has he got any eligibility left? Give me the Fridge. Just give me somebody that can be a lead blocker. I mean, a real fullback.
Or, I mean, honestly, giving a defensive lineman who could actually hold on to the ball in that situation would have been better than what they did. And I'm not even kidding because a few years ago they gave Akeem Hicks a couple carries.
I remember that.
Yeah, you just power that thing in there. Hey, I wanted to ask you about Darnell Wright. We learned today that he's actually dealing with a back injury and is not going to be practicing today. It's probably impossible for us to know how much that's been limiting him, if it even was an issue before Sunday. I do know from us being able to watch as many practices as we were able to in training camp, which was pretty much every day, something's looked a little off to me, Baldy. He just I haven't really been able to put my finger on it, but all of a sudden I hear today, oh, he's got a back. Maybe that adds up a little bit because he just doesn't seem to be as powerful as we saw last season.
I agree. I completely agree. Now you mentioned the back. I mean, he doesn't have the pop that he had at Tennessee, that he had and showed last year. For parts of the season, he doesn't seem to have the same power for whatever reason. And he's fallen off his blocks. I know last year he had the bad shoulder and he was kind of a one-arm bandit at times. And, we sort of, kind of take that in consideration. But I don't know how bad the back is or it's affecting him, but he doesn't demonstrate the same power that I saw when he was at Tennessee, going up against Will Anderson, going up against elite players, Trayvon Walker, whatever. I don't see that power from him right now early in the season.
How would you, if you were coaching, Baldy, how would you get a guy like that to be comfortable in saying what actually is going on? Because he's going to try to play through it, and this guy hopefully has a long career in front of him.
Well, I mean, you don't want to put him out there if he's risking further injury, but there's certain – I mean, I've played with back spasms. I don't know what the injury is. Back spasms, there's just things you do to block that up, and you go play. There's a lot of injuries. I was talking to the right tackle of the Eagles yesterday, Lane Johnson. He's got plantar fasciitis, his foot's inflamed. But he's not going to miss games or practices because of it. So there's just certain things that you sign up for. And there's certain things, there's a certain amount of pain that you have to endure to play this game. I don't care what position it is. And so, but if it's also at the point of risking further injury, then you have to be smart about it because it's early in the season and he's a young player and you want him to have a long career and he has a chance to have a long career. But you don't want to do any further damage, which might lead to, surgery or further injury. So that's just something they have to weigh as an organization and he has to weigh as a player. But if it's manageable and it's just a pain tolerance, then, there's things that you could do to handle that.
I guess somebody that's drawn a lot of ire from fans and questions from the media is Chris Morgan, the offensive line, in the run game coordinator, offensive line coach. He gets promoted to run game coordinator. He rolls over from a offensive coaching staff that got wiped out last year. It made sense to me in the time. Okay, the run game's been good. Continue that momentum on. But is there some kind of disconnect between Chris Morgan and Shane Waldron where Shane didn't necessarily pick his offensive line coach?
I don't know. I don't know what kind of internal battles there are. Chris Morgan's been a quality offensive line coach wherever he's been in this business. So, I think his resume speaks for itself. Now, between Shane and him, I hope they're getting along. That's the most important coach on your staff is your offensive line coach. He's presumably developing players, installing a scheme, and then when things are broken like they were for much of Sunday against the Colts, and that's without their best defensive player, DeForest Buckner, you got to be able to fix things on the sideline. And that's the job of that important coach. And so I hope that, they see eye to eye on the run game and how they're attacking the run game and how they're attacking certain looks right now.
Well, my follow-up to that, Baldy, is back when you were playing, how many coaches did you guys have on one side of the ball? Because the Bears, this was one of my concerns, and it was something they did a few years ago too under Matt Nagy. But they fire the offense coordinator, and then they bring in all of these coaches. There's a run game coordinator now. There's a pass game coordinator now. Because people forget Thomas Brown, who was the OC in Carolina with Bryce Young last year, is now here as the passing game coordinator. And it's just like I'm just compared to when you play, how different was it? It just seems like these staffs are so large now.
I don't like it. I really don't. When I started in Dallas, we had 7 guys on our staff. Landry did we went to a team meeting and film breakdown on Monday after game. Landry, he did every single play. Special teams, offense, defense. It was a 3-hour sweat fest. I don't care what the score was and how much you won by. You felt like you lost after that meeting. But I like to listen to one voice. I don't like all these intermediate things because what happens, and I'm not saying this is happening in Chicago, but it does happen, where, you're the assistant offensive line coach and you blew a play on Sunday and the offense coordinator is like pounding you in a meeting. And then your assistant offensive line coach is going, that's not really how it went. Just take, there's just too many voices, I think. And not always, but sometimes there's just too many voices. I like listening to one guy tell me right or wrong what I did, what I need to do better, whatever. I don't need a whole committee of people relaying this information. I was in New Orleans on Sunday, and I have a great respect for Jeff Stoutland, the Eagles offensive line coach. And, he believes in working his starters out before a game. And it really paid off because Saquon had a huge run to broke open a game and scored a touchdown. But I watched him work on that line stunt that they picked up against New Orleans an hour before the kickoff. And he's the only voice. There's assistants to assistants there, but you just listen to Stout. He's going to fix your protection. He's going to fix your run game. He's going to get you right. He had 2 backups playing the right side. I'd like listening to one guy.
Baldy, what do you think the likelihood is that the Bears could really fall off the track here? You had week 1, miracle Will Levis interception that allowed you to win a game, come back. You had no real business winning that game against a bad team. Week 2, scores closer than it really was. Texans fumble inside the 10. That game's further away than it really should have been. This week, you lose to a Colts team whose quarterback completed 10 passes and gave you a couple of gifts. You had an offensive line that I don't know who's the best player on there right now, but it's good luck picking one. So I do wonder. I know the defense is solid, but you looking at the Bears right now, how likely do you think it is they fall off the track here?
Well, they got to play better up front. The defense is keeping them in every game right now. And I've been a part of teams like this, and I'm not predicting anything. But when the offense isn't carrying their weight, it usually leads to bad things. It's hard to keep it together. I don't care what your personalities are. If the defense feels like they're carrying it and your offense is not, pulling their weight, there can be splits within certain locker rooms. I've seen it. I've been a part of that. The line has to play better. The quarterback has to play better. The offense has to make more sense. But all that stuff, what you just described, is true. And it can lead to some kind of a fall off. But this is a week-to-week league. Nobody thought Denver could go to Tampa and win last week. Nobody. And they completely outplayed them. And Tampa went to Detroit the week before, and they just thumped them good. So it's week to week. Philadelphia was awful against the run first 2 weeks. They just completely shut New Orleans down. Like, this is so week to week right now. The Rams are limping in here. They beat the 49ers. They're a well-coached team. I don't care who's on the field. Rookie center, first-year left guard. I mean, receivers that you got to go look up in their scout report to find out who they are. It doesn't matter. All first- or second-year players to their defensive line, they beat the 49ers. They're capable of beating anybody, honestly. So, but you got a 3-game homestand right now. Like, you got to win at home. You got to build a home court advantage. And if you're going to do anything this year, I think it's got to start in these 3 home games that they have right now.
Yes, sir. So you've mentioned a couple times now Shane Waldron's offense needs to make more sense. I want to hear more of your thoughts on that, but I want to share this real quick. This is from our guy Mark Potash, who covers the Bears for the Chicago Sun-Times here. 6 of the candidates for the Bears offensive coordinator position were hired as an OC in the NFL. That includes Waldron. Here's the early update. Clint Kubiak with the Saints. They're 2nd in points, 7th in yards in play. Cliff Kingsbury, 3rd in points, 8th in yards per play. Liam Cohen with the Bucks, 15th, 21st. Just to speed this up, Greg Roman's listed, Zach Robinson's both listed. They're sort of middle of the road. And then you have Shane Waldron, last of these 6 coordinators, 31st in points, 30th in yards, and 32nd in yards per play.
Well, I mean, look, I personally like Cliff Kingsbury. Jaden Daniels, I don't know if he could play any better through 3 games. Jaden is always going to be compared with Caleb and vice versa. The offense, to me, makes a whole lot more sense in Washington than it does in Chicago right now. You can put that in the offense coordinator, but I would say the Washington offense line coached by Bobby Johnson looks a whole lot better to me than it does in Chicago at this point. So it does start up front. You're going to be about as good as your line plays. Washington has run the ball well. Jaden has scrambled really well, converted a lot of first downs. Washington has scored on every single drive in the last 2 games. Like, it's just like a stat that's unfathomable in this league with the rookie quarterback.
I got one real quick one for you, Baldy, before we cut you loose. Week 1, you came on before week 1, and one of the things you said you were going to be looking at was who Caleb was going to be most comfortable with. And here in this last game, Rome Odunze seemed to break out. 6 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. And I know it's early, and this isn't a slight on DJ Moore's ability, but more of an acknowledgement of Rome Odunze's ability. Do you think that it's already trending towards an area where this is his go-to guy and he's wide receiver 1 in the not-too-distant future?
Well, I mean, if you look at that first throw to DJ Moore, I mean, DJ's running a go route, and Caleb's throwing a conversion route to the back shoulder, and the ball ends up 10 yards out of bounds. Like that, I don't know how that happens, honestly, at this stage. I have no idea how that can happen. I mean, it's either or, but you can't, like, just can't be a long incompletion. I don't know if a Rome is ready. I know Rome is going to, like Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, like those guys already are the number ones by far. Rome was right in that category with those 3 guys. You could have flipped them all up on any given day and say Rome's the best, Malik's the best. But I know Malik and Marvin already are the best in their teams. It's not even close. And I don't think that Rome's that far away. He might need a few more games. But to your question, if Rome becomes the go-to guy, it won't surprise me at all.
Baldy, great stuff. You look fantastic. I know that not necessarily what you wear when you're not on TV, but we like TV, Baldy.
All right, man. All right. Well, this is going to end. It's going to end pretty soon here. So, look, the Rams. Let me just say this to you guys. Okay. I watch the Rams every week because I get smarter every week when I watch that. The way that they protect, the way that they cover for a backup to a backup left tackle or a rookie center, and how they protect Matt Stafford and what they do. Like, I look at them and I marvel and I go, how do they get this all done in 6 days to get ready for the next game? It's amazing watching Sean McVay and his staff work. They're really, honestly, I get smarter watching that team play.
There's that, and there's the quarterback who's not going to miss as many throws as the Bears saw last week. This is a tough matchup this week. It really is.
I like the Bears secondary. If they could get some pressure on Stafford, this should be a good matchup. I don't know if Cooper or Naku. I don't think these guys are gone. I don't know who's going. They got backup tight ends. Just Kyron Williams is a good football player. Concentrate on just stopping him first, and then worry about Stafford later.
100%. All right. Well, we love all versions of Baldy. We like the suit.
Right.
We like when you're coming off the beach and like scuba gear. We love it all.
Yeah. All right, man. All right, guys.
Thanks, Baldy.
There he is.
I'll talk to you next week. You bet.
Yep, absolutely. We'll talk to Baldy again next week.
We all silly like the mayor.